Hi, my name is Levi Shemtov. I am from Uruguay, South America. Many people ask, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of all this, of existing? Is there a purpose? So before we answer that question, which is obviously a very complicated and not a straightforward one-word answer, we have to first understand that the only way that it could be a purpose, we could ask this question, what is a purpose? We have to establish that there is a God, that we believe in God and the Creator. Because if we don't believe in God, if we don't believe in a Creator, we just believe that this world, planet Earth, is a cosmic mistake, evolution, something that happened without a God, then there is no purpose. Then it's not even logical to ask what is the purpose, because it's a mistake, it's a cosmic mistake that just happened. So it doesn't really make sense to ask what is the purpose. So obviously when we ask what is the purpose of the world, we are establishing the fact that there is a God, there's a Creator which created the world for a reason. And we are searching and looking for the answer to that question of what is the purpose, what did God have in mind when He created the world. And to get the answer to that question, I think the best place would be to look in the Creator's manual, to see what the Creator has to say about the world which He created. And that book is the Bible, as many people call it, the Old Testament, the Torah. That is God's book. The book that God wrote is His words. And that's where we have to look to see the answer to this question. Something very interesting is that we are finite. We are limited creations. Humans, animals, everything in this world has a beginning and has an end. The only thing that is infinite is God. So how does a finite being, a creation, a human being, or anything, as a matter of fact, in this world, connect to God, connect to the Creator, which is infinite? Which seems to be a paradox. I mean, a finite thing connecting to an infinite thing. And the answer is, again, the only way to connect to this infinite being is by doing what the infinite being wants us to do. Because if we start using our logic and our reasoning and our way of deduction and saying, I'm going to do this thing and that thing, I think this is what God wants, everything you're going to do is going to be, as much as you do, is going to be a finite thing that you're doing. But when you do something which God, the infinite being, the real, the truth, infinite being says to do, you are connecting with the sayer, the commander of this commandment that you're doing, and that is the Torah and its 613 commandments. Sometimes we could ask, how does something like the Holocaust, the terrible tragedy that occurred in Europe and throughout the world with the Nazis, the Germans, starting in 1938 all the way till 1945, how does something like that occur? Human beings doing that to other human beings, 6 million Jews murdered in cold blood for absolutely no other reason than just being Jewish, just because they believed in something else. How could something like that happen? Especially when we look back a little bit and we see that the Nazis, the German Nazis, were in fact very moral people. They didn't follow the Bible or God or anything like that, but they had their morals, they had their moral values, they had their set of laws and rules, and they were a very moral nation. In fact, we see that they had hospitals for dogs and different animals with diseases. They were very compassionate to animals, and all of a sudden, from being very compassionate to animals, they become monsters to other human beings. How does such a thing happen? How does something like that happen? The answer to that is that the Nazis weren't guided by the moral compass of the Bible and God. When a person is guided by his own logical reasoning and way of life, or even society, it's bound to change, because humans are bound to change. Our logic changes all the time, our emotions change all the time. We're not we're not infinite, we're not unchangeable, we're not absolute, we're not the absolute truth. So therefore, one day you could believe that it's immoral to kill somebody, and the next day you could go and change your mind and kill somebody. But if your way of life and your values are based on something which goes beyond you, and your parents and your friends around you and what the world has to say about what is moral and immoral. You base yourself on the absolute truth, on the infinite God and Torah and the Bible and its beautiful way of life and laws. Then you are bound to have a life and a society and family of happiness, of peace, of absolute truth and good values.